last month I read a story I did about my dog, because I don't usually do short stories, but I did the story about my dog, and you guys were really nice and you laughed and you were too very supportive, so I made another one. So anyway, it's so this second story is you guys' fault because you were too nice to me last month with my first one. But anyway, and I don't usually write short stories, so this is really different for me. But this is another tale of a practical dog. And I have the wrong voice for this, but I'm going to try. Okay, that's not that one. Okay. Okay. Keeping things safe is always the high priority for the practical dog. By marking his master's property, he lets the riffraff know who they would answer to should they dare to trifle with one of his master's treasures. He regularly peed on property lines and trees of importance in the yard to keep the other marauding mammals at bay. He even marked his master's possessions, like the car. How he loved going for rides in the car, so he peed on his tires regularly. Sometimes it wandered off without him, but it always returned, and often bringing friends, so he'd pee on their tires as well. Inside the house, he was just as diligent. Whenever he noted the scent of a rival, well, he'd pee on it and cover the scent with of the scoundrel. His master appreciated this clever bit of precaution. He could tell because whenever she noticed what he'd done, she'd shout out his name with enthusiasm and then let him outside to play in the garden. Life was wonderful, and all the more with such appreciative masters. When he wasn't out of doors, he often would sit in front of the sliding glass door to keep watch. Cars would whiz past and squirrels would tease and annoy him. He growled at a fat one that looked like a varmint that had once bit his paw. It ignored his snarls and sat down on its hind legs, daring him for another chase, the bully. He jumped onto the glass and scratched for someone taller than him to open the handle for him. And when no one came, he found his master asleep on the floor. He pawed at him, but only succeeded in getting him to turn onto his back. He ran back to the window to see if that vicious vermin was still there, but he ran away. Ha! He continued to look attentively out the door. Then there was an unfamiliar human on the sidewalk. He barked again and jumped at the glass. He wondered why his human didn't get up and let him out to give chase. He ran to the sleeping body, barking eagerly the whole way. Still, all he did was begin to snore. How could he not appreciate the seriousness of the situation? Our hero ran back to the glass door and the human was gone. But no sooner had he settled down when what did he see now but another dog. It was a large, shaggy dog of unknown origin. He studied his rival, admiring his long, fancy tail. Apparently this dog's master didn't suffer from tail envy. Well, what the lucky dog. But what was he doing? He was lifting his leg on the great oak from outside at his post. Why, the fiend! This was too much. He began barking wildly, jumping up to the hand of the door. If only he was just a little bit taller, his legs would stretch another few inches. He'd have it. But the beast outside was now sniffing the car tires. He couldn't have this. No, not the car. Our hero watched with horror as this stray lifted his leg against the car's tire. He ran to the sleeping master, barking wildly and pawing at him, but he wouldn't get up. He only pushed him away and turned onto his side. He obviously did not understand the urgency of the matter. This couldn't go on. He desperately needed out, but how could he get his master's attention? And then suddenly he had an inspiration. He stood close to his master's head, he lifted up his leg, and he peed on him. This worked wonderfully. At first the boy only sputtered and shook his head, but then when he saw his faithful servant standing over him, well, he jumped up and he shouted his name with enthusiasm. And then he rushed to opened the door, and this time he even assisted him outside by putting his foot in his ass. Our hero flew through the air, ears flapping at the burst of fresh air, and he landed smartly, then looked about himself. Why, my master has assisted me halfway across the yard, he thought happily. But then, alas, the stray was gone. sniffing and remarking his territory, and especially the car, he held his head up high and leisurely walked the perimeter. There was much work to be done, but don't worry, Master, I'll be back soon to sniff those toes.